There's a specific kind of pain no one prepares you for. It's not betrayal. It's not abandonment. It's watching someone you love choose comfort over you and realizing you're not losing them all at once. You're losing them in pieces. Every time they stay quiet, when they should have spoken. Every time they laugh, when you're uncomfortable. Every time they let someone else cross a line that should have never been crossed. And the worst part, they don't even see it. Because to them, everything is fine. Until the day you decide you're done pretending it is. I used to believe my dad was the safest place I had. Not perfect. Not always easy. But safe in a way that didn't need explaining. He was the person I called when something went wrong. The person whose voice could still ground me, even as an adult. The person I never imagined I'd feel distant from, not like this. Our relationship wasn't flawless. We had disagreements, periods where we didn't fully understand each other. But we always came back. We adjusted. We learned. We grew. That's what made it feel real. So when he told me he was getting remarried, I didn't hesitate to support him. I told myself all the right things. He deserves happiness. He shouldn't be alone. This is a new chapter. And I meant every word. I didn't go into it looking for flaws. I wasn't waiting for something to go wrong. If anything, I wanted it to work more than anyone. Because if it worked for him, then it worked for all of us. At least that's what I thought. The first time I met her, nothing felt wrong exactly. Just intense. She talked a lot. More than most people. But I brushed it off as nerves. New family, new dynamics, it made sense. But then it didn't stop. Every conversation turned into a monologue. Not a dialogue, not a connection, a performance. She would start with a simple topic. And within seconds, it became a long, detailed story about her past. Her health issues. Her trauma. Her life. Her daughter. Stories I would hear again the next time. And again after that. Sometimes word for word. It didn't matter what anyone else said. If I tried to share something about my life, she would nod briefly, then redirect the conversation back to herself. Every time. At first I tried to engage. I listened. I asked questions. I gave her space. Because that's what you do when you're trying to build a relationship. But slowly something started to shift. I realized I wasn't being included. I was being talked at. There's a difference. And once you feel it, you can't ignore it. It wasn't just tiring. It was draining in a way I couldn't explain to anyone else. The kind of draining that doesn't show up in the moment. It hits you later. When you leave. When you sit in silence. When you realize you don't feel like yourself anymore. And through all of it, my dad stayed quiet. He listened. He smiled. He let it happen. And I told myself, maybe he doesn't notice. Maybe this is just how she is. Maybe I'm overthinking. Because it's easier to doubt yourself than to question someone you love. So I kept showing up. Kept visiting. Kept trying. Even when something inside me started to feel off. Because walking away from something unclear is harder than walking away from something obvious. The discomfort didn't arrive all at once. It built slowly, layer by layers, until ignoring it became harder than facing it. The first moment that really stayed with me was something small. A comment. Casual, almost joking. but inappropriate. She made a sexual remark about her and my dad, to me. I remember freezing. Not reacting, not responding. Just processing, did she really just say that? But I laughed it off. Because that's what people do when they're uncomfortable. They minimize, they rationalize, they move on, but it didn't stop, it happened again. Different wording, same feeling. Then again, each time just enough to make me uncomfortable, but not enough to easily confront without feeling like I was making it a big deal. Until one day, I didn't let it pass. I told her calmly, that makes me uncomfortable. And for a second she looked surprised, then her entire tone shifted, soft, emotional. I would never hurt you. And suddenly the focus wasn't on what she said anymore. It was on how she felt. I was no longer the person who had been made uncomfortable. I was the person who had caused discomfort. That moment changed everything for me, because I started noticing the pattern. Every time I set even the smallest boundary, she didn't respect it. She redirected it, turned it into something emotional, something complicated, something that somehow made me feel like I was the problem. That's when I started shutting down, because speaking up didn't solve anything. It just made things heavier. Then came the comments about my body, uninvited, casual, inappropriate, and again my dad said nothing. That silence started to feel louder than her words, because it wasn't just about her behavior anymore. It was about what he allowed. And then my daughter came into the picture, and everything changed. Because I could tolerate discomfort for myself, but not for her. She crossed boundaries with my child the same way she did with me, kissing her after we asked her not to, giving sweets when we had clearly said no, offering parenting advice we didn't ask for, and doing it all with a kind of performative affection that didn't feel genuine. It felt forced, like something to display, not something to give, and that unsettled me more than I expected. Then I noticed something deeper. The way she talked about men, the way she excused behavior that shouldn't be excused, the way she minimized women's experiences, and something inside me quietly said, this isn't safe, not physically, but emotionally. And once you recognize that feeling, you can't ignore it anymore. The breaking point didn't come with shouting, it didn't come with a dramatic moment, it came quietly, like a realization that had been waiting for me to catch up. Another visit, another weekend that already felt heavy before it began. We had already stopped staying in their house. That was the first boundary I set, not spoken loudly, just implemented, but even with distance nothing really changed. The patterns followed, the conversations, the behavior, the constant sense of emotional exhaustion, and then it happened. My daughter ran up to me, chocolate on her hands. On her face, I didn't ask, I already knew. I looked up, she smiled. We just gave her a little. A little. That word stayed with me longer than it should have, because it wasn't about chocolate. It was about what that word represented. Disregard, dismissal, the quiet belief that my boundaries didn't really matter. And in that moment, something inside me stopped. Not exploded, not snapped, just stopped, because I saw it clearly for the first time. This wasn't going to change, not her behavior, not the patterns, not my dad's silence. And if I kept showing up like this, smiling, tolerating, adjusting, then I wasn't just allowing it. I was teaching my daughter that this is what love looks like, that boundaries are optional, that discomfort is something you ignore to keep the peace. And I couldn't do that, not for her. That was the moment I knew something had to change. Even if it cost me something I wasn't ready to lose. I knew this conversation couldn't happen the way every other one had. Not on speakerphone, not with her interrupting, not with my words being redirected. So when I called him, I said something simple. Can you talk privately? There was a pause, then, yeah, and for a moment it felt like I had my dad back, just him. No noise, no interference, I didn't ease into it. Didn't soften it the way I normally would. I can't keep doing visits like this. Silence. I'm uncomfortable every time I'm around her. Another silence. She crosses boundaries with me. With my child. And you don't say anything. That part lingered. Because it was the truth I had avoided saying for the longest time. This wasn't just about her, it was about him. When he finally responded, it was exactly what I expected. I think you're being a little hard on her. And there it was, the distance, the divide. She means well. That sentence hurt more than anything else. Because meaning well doesn't undo harm. Meaning well doesn't make discomfort disappear. Meaning well doesn't protect my child. I'm not asking you to choose, I said. I'm telling you what I need. And for the first time, I didn't feel like I was asking for permission. We're going to limit visits. And when we do come, it won't be the same. If boundaries aren't respected, we'll leave. The words felt heavy, but they also felt right. Because this wasn't about control, it was about protection. And for once, I chose that over keeping things comfortable. There was no explosion, no dramatic ending, just a quiet shift, a different kind of distance. Visits became shorter, less frequent, more intentional, and more honest. She didn't really change. The patterns were still there, but I did. I stopped explaining myself repeatedly. Stopped trying to be understood by someone who wasn't really listening. And when something crossed a line, I acted. We left early. We said no, we held the boundary. And my dad, he adjusted, not perfectly, not completely, but enough for me to understand something important. He wasn't choosing her over me. He was choosing what felt easier. And I had spent too long trying to be easy, trying to be agreeable, trying to keep the peace. At the cost of myself, that's what changed. I stopped abandoning myself to protect the relationship. And in doing that, I found something I hadn't felt in a long time. Clarity, because love without boundaries doesn't protect you, it erases you. So I didn't cut him off. I didn't walk away completely. I just changed how I showed up. And for the first time in a long time, that felt like peace. Because now, when my daughter looks at me, she doesn't see silence. She doesn't see discomfort being ignored. She sees someone who chooses herself, even when it's hard. Even when it hurts. And maybe that's the kind of love that actually lasts.